Many people perceive a conflict between science and the Christian faith, and this is particularly true tragically within the church itself. And the victims of this misperception oftentimes are young people who get the message that science is dangerous and that they should avoid taking courses in science, let alone pursuing careers in science. And so we want to be able to help young people make sense of science-faith issues. I'm joined by Bijan Namadi, who is a particle physicist and a Christian, who's going to help us give some advice to young people. First of all, Bijan, before we get into the particulars of Christian students, let's just talk to students in general. What would you say to a young person who's interested in going into science, whether they're a Christian or a non-Christian?
I would probably first say to fuel their interest in science with a informed picture of what the big questions in their field are. So reading the popular books in any field are are very valuable. So when I was first learning to be a physicist, I think I kind of shunned the popular books. I thought just the scientific journals are all we're gonna be dealing with. But in fact, the most interesting deep questions are the realm in which they're discussed is in the popular books on the subject. So I would definitely say if you're interested in subject X, find out what the great books are, and let that fuel the way your motivation. So when you are going through the trenches and basically learning the math or learning the whatever that's part of that discipline, that you understand why that's going to be necessary. This is the tool that you need. These are the tools you need to learn it. So that's a general advice I would have. Other than that, I would just say that it is a very noble work, but it's hard work, and it's very much worthy of the sort of the diligence that it's going to require. Nobody gets to be a concert pianist by just dabbling. You really want to really be burning the midnight oil sometimes. There's no studying hard. That has to be part of what you are willing to do to be a good scientist or anything really.
Now let's get a little bit more specific. What would you say to a young person in the church now who, again, maybe has this perception that science is something that they should avoid, but yet maybe they're built or they're wired to be a scientist? What would you say to that young person?
I would say, if I were to talk to somebody who has that view that somehow they should avoid, is that you are shortchanging God, because God created a world in which it's all coherent. The natural world, which is the realm of science, is not somehow out of God's jurisdiction. The natural world is not in rebellion against God. If you are studying the natural world, you're not joining the rebellion or something. You're actually engaging in the wonderful, really holy practice of experiencing God's creation, God's works, investigating how God has done things, so that you have a new vantage point from which you can give glory to God. The scriptures talk about the nature, the heavens declaring God's glory, for example, that God's attributes, that those that can be known about Him, can be known through what He's made. So that is a realm in which we are supposed to work. Another passage that says it's the glory of God to conceal a matter. It's the glory of kings to search it out. And my wife tends to remind me that's how government funding of science should be justified. It's the glory of kings to fund science. But seriously, I think the point is that the truth is there is one truth. There is not a separation of truths. And when we seek the natural order in engaging in science to understand what is true about the natural world, we will inevitably find things that point to God, to His goodness, to His majesty, to His care, and these all are beautiful and unique vantage points for science. And it would be a shame for us to abdicate that precious vantage point that God has created, thinking that just because we're going to go into that field, we're going to somehow abandon God. There is a difference between engaging in the search for what is true about the natural world, and then somehow also accepting a materialist, reductionist, atheistic interpretation of the things we see. And so, to the Christian, I would say, don't think that just because you're engaging in science, you have to now change your religion. No, you can have a Christian view of physics or astronomy or of biology or of botany or whatever you're doing. And that's very much possible if for no other reason, because most of these fields had their origins in the work of Christians. Just go back 100 years and you will find profound works that are still informing the way we should think about these fields. So it's not only enjoyable, I think it's a holy endeavor, and also it's a doable endeavor, just because we are not alone. There are others who have done this and done this well.